But right now, the basis of our nation is broken. I mean, Western Australia has basically declared it wants to be a separate country. And late this evening, I'm hearing that Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk said she's not into a Queensland opening up the borders by December kind of deal that Scott Morrison's proposed. No, she thinks Western Australia's onto something. So this whole thing is now becoming a deliberate destruction of what Australia as a nation has been since 1901. The Federation fathers would be fuming tonight, and rightly so. The states are acting, or so many of the states are acting in a heartless fashion. They don't give a damn about anybody who doesn't vote for them. They don't give a damn about anybody who lives south of a border if you're in Queensland, or west of a border if you're in Victoria. They just don't care, and it is a big problem. There is a siege mentality, and I quipped a few weeks ago that if the armies of Australia the Army of Australia was still controlled state by state, we would have tanks at the borders. This is not too big a claim. It is a big scare, though, and it's a big political con, because it seems the closer we're getting to state elections in Queensland and Western Australia, the more intense the rhetoric is. And tonight we have hundreds and hundreds of spin doctors in Victoria, in Queensland and in Western Australia working for those state governments in a political fashion to scare the living daylights out of you and out of me. And if anybody who's scared right now, you have reason to feel as though you're human, but stop and think about it. Think about the big con. Just understand and be cynical. Be sceptical about what you're being told by these state governments. Prime Minister Morrison is trying to bring the country back together, bring it back into vogue, and yet they're even laughing at him. This lockdown, of course, has been incredibly easy. If you're one of the elites, if you're a billionaire and got a plane, you can fly in and out of the country. If you're a movie star and you want to go to Europe, you can get permission to leave. If you're a footballer, well, you're able to fly in, bring your family, bring your friends, have a great time sitting around swimming pools, sipping on Campares and wondering what the poor punters who might well come to a football match are doing. We're going to talk about all of that tonight. The Prime Minister last week went for national sovereignty. The states, well, they still haven't got it right when it comes to nation building and doing their part of the economy. We need new industry, and new industry is being sought tonight with Alan Tudge announcing a task force to bring new businesses to Australia. But no new business is going to come to Australia just because they're going to get a special tax treatment if we don't have cheap electricity, available water and all the infrastructure we need, and indeed free movement around this country. We're just kidding ourselves. We're just playing around like a cat or a kitten plays with a ball of wool. And we need to put pressure on all governments. We need to back the Prime Minister in his efforts to try and open this country up. And I don't think Christmas can come soon enough. If you can have a football grand final in Brisbane with 30,000 people, how come you can only have 10 people in your home around suburban Brisbane at the same time? This is a nonsense. The state governments, the Labor states in particular, are now running the show. And it's really evident when you look at people like Johannes Leek's terrific cartoon in The Australian today, made it absolutely patently clear that Josh Frydenberg's trying to do his bit as Federal Treasurer, Scott Morrison's trying to do his bit as Prime Minister, but neither of them can travel to Queensland to campaign for an election. Neither of them can travel to Western Australia to campaign for an election. And what if Scott Morrison was to call a federal poll tomorrow? Would none of these state premiers let them in? This is a nonsense. The state premiers are sending the bill to Canberra for everything. And so far, states have only chipped in a few tens of millions of dollars, not much money at all, compared to the sort of money that the Commonwealth has chipped up, some $800 billion. The states are only in for millions. Millions, that's all. It's a lot of money to you and me, but it's not much in the scheme of things. The vulnerable are being made more vulnerable by these state governments. They don't care. They just don't care. We heard about the horrible story of that woman whose baby, a preborn baby, had died. There are a lot of other stories, and they're now starting to become very evident to very many people. And there are so many people, so many families right now who are wondering, when is this cruelty going to stop? And I think one of the things that's really come out of all of this is that the National Cabinet experiment, which seemed like a great idea at the time, bringing everybody together to sing from the hymn sheet, well, today, in my view, the hymn sheet has now been torn up set fire to, thrown through, whatever you like, it is gone. National Cabinet must also go. Scott Morrison needs to be supported by us. He also needs to grow a couple of big ones and take these state premiers on. Hold back some of the GST money. What if Western Australia didn't get the money they get out of the Commonwealth? How would that travel? What if Queensland didn't get it? How would that travel? Federation's in crisis.